All right, this says solve the following equation. Then we have our equation here. 12 plus 5/8 x, or 5 over 8x, equals 27. So remember, when we are solving an equation, our goal is that we want to isolate the variable. So we want to get the variable, or the letter, on one side of the equal sign by itself. So in this specific problem, we want to isolate the x. We want to get the x on one side of the equal sign by itself, using our inverse operations. So the first thing we want to do is we want to look at this 12 here. It's not attached to the x at all. So the first thing we need to do is we need to figure out how we take this positive 12 and use inverse operations to move it to the other side of the equal sign. So since that 12 is positive, we have to think, how do we undo adding? And we undo adding by subtracting. So the inverse of adding 12 would be subtracting 12. So we're going to subtract 12 from both sides of that equation, because whatever we do to one side of the equation, we have to do to the other side. So when we do that, we end up with 5 over 8x equals 15. And you can kind of see my next step is already here. Now we need to address that fraction, that 5 over 8x. We don't like the fractions in our problem, so what we want to do is we want to get rid of them as soon as we can. So to get rid of the fraction, we want to look at this 5/8 as 5 divided by 8. Because remember, that fraction bar means divided by. So if we're dividing by 8, we need to think, how do we undo dividing by 8? Or what's the inverse of dividing? And the inverse of division is multiplication. So to get rid of this fraction here, we're going to multiply both sides of the equation by 8. When we do that, the whole entire point of us doing this is to make a big 1 over here on the left. Any number divided by itself is just 1. So those 8s make a big 1. So now, and they go away, they turn into a 1. So now we have 5x equals 120, because that's what 15 times 8 is. Again, this 15 times 8, you have Desmos, you have a calculator, type that in there if you're not sure. All right, now 5x, remember that's 5 times x. So to undo multiplying by 5, we have to divide. So we're going to divide both sides by 5. Again, the whole reason we do that is because we want to make a big 1 over here. 5 over 5 is just 1. So now we have 1x, or just x, by itself on the left-hand side of the equation. And then 120 divided by 5 is 24. So the answer to this, the solution to this equation, is x equals 24.